So this topic is very dear to my heart. One, because I represent a diverse community, of course, and two, because I actually, Adsmovil stands for diversity, and we're a media company that basically helps our partners to be able to reach the Hispanic community. So I am very excited to have our panelists on board and talk about their multicultural strategies and how they have built communities and authenticity throughout them. So without further ado, I am going to ask all of you to introduce yourself and let me know a little bit about you and what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, so as you heard, Marissa Wilson, Senior Manager of PR and Communications here at Bob Evans Farms. I feel like you all have been hearing me talk all day, but aside from my talking, makes sense for PR. So my role here at Bob Evans Farms, I joined the organization about 2.5 years ago, and a big part of my role is brand communications and also foundationally really developing out our PR strategy. So you've heard from the other members on our team, post-COVID, post-acquisition, really starting over in terms of starting to build relationships with the media again. How do we show up in the earned media space? And how do we start communicating and educating media that, yes, we were part of restaurants, but we're grocery products, and while we're great friends, we are separate, and there's some education that we've had to do. We've also executed some fantastic programs, and I'm excited to show you all the future where we're heading with Bring Out the Bob. In terms of my background, I come from a CPG background. I was based in Buffalo, New York. Worked for a company called Perry's Ice Cream in marketing communications, and I also sat on the board of directors for the children's museum called Explore and More, where diversity, equity, inclusion is a big focus of the role, and making sure that we are creating inclusive spaces for children.
I'm just kidding, how do you follow that? I need to update my resume. First, I do want to say thanks to Clara and all the moderators, because I know you guys spend a ton of time on the phone with people trying to get to know us, so thank you for all your preparation. My name is Jason, take the guess. We say it Boertje, it's Dutch, it's really pronounced Boertje, that's why we don't say it that way. I lead the marketing for Carquest, which is a division of Advanced Auto Parts. It's the independent division. So we've got 1,100 independent auto parts stores across the country. If you want to know what independent means, think of Ace Hardware. That's what we are in the auto parts space. My job is to help tell their story in their communities. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit, how important they are to their community. And so my job is to partner with them. They are independent, so we can't make them do anything. So my job is to partner with them and give them the tools that they need to advocate for themselves in the marketplace. My background is not crazy exciting. I started randomly in recording studios, which is weird. And then I found out that didn't pay. And so I went into accounting, which is weird for a software company. And then I went to the marine industry for 15 years. And then I'm in the auto parts space. So that's my background, but I've been doing marketing for about 20 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Deanna Dane. I'm the field marketing manager for Molson Coors. I know I've talked to quite a few of you and you've asked where are you based out of. So I'm actually based out of Cleveland. I'm one of two in our marketing department. I cover Ohio and Kentucky. So beer, as you hopefully you guys are all consumers of beer, beer's hyper local, and we have a pretty diverse team overall. There's 19 counterparts that I have across the country where we focus in on specific states to get as hyper-local as possible from a local marketing perspective. A lot of sports marketing. We sponsor the Ohio State Buckeyes. We have the Columbus Crew here in the city. Cincinnati Bengals, FC Cincinnati. We have Cleveland Guardians. There's quite a few in the portfolio. But again, yours obviously hyper-local. Prior to moving into this role and moving back to Cleveland, I was actually out of Chicago as well. I worked in innovation at Molson Coors. Prior to that, worked at Wrigley Mars, so I worked on 5 Gum nationally, and then Skittles and Starburst, seasonal innovation, which is fun. And I'd have to say that beer's probably been the most entertaining to date, but I spent the majority of my career in CPG.
Okay, so let's take it up a notch. First and foremost, I want to ask, because I know, so here's the thing. And I don't know if it's a pet peeve of mine, but I'm going to say it out loud. Many people say you have to be authentic. and then it ends there, and then they give a little bit of a general description of what that authenticity means. But I think that authenticity represents many different things, many different forms, and I believe that every brand has their own definition of what authenticity truly means in order for it to be a strong brand and for it to really expand and evolve. So with that being said, what does brand authenticity means to you, to your brand, and how have you been able to evolve with it?
So I think at Bob Evans Farms, I love that we have this really great inside-out approach to marketing. So when you walk through these doors and you meet our people here and you get to experience what it's like to be here, be a part of the community, and we are so active in the community, that's where it starts. That's where authenticity starts. We need to walk the walk. We have a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I sit on our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council that is led by Seer James right here, and also our CHRO, Deborah Cornell, and co-lead the brand pillar with Tony. And through that work, I've just seen so much growth in my time here and who we're hiring. So again, to me, brand authenticity starts internally because our consumers are smart. If we're not walking the walk internally, any messaging we put out there seems false. Our consumers will see through that, and if we're trying to connect with audiences in an authentic way, it starts here, and it starts with also hiring a diverse team and being able to learn from each other and have those conversations. My background is different than someone else's. My perspective is different than someone else's. So if someone else can share their experience, ask a question, be curious, that's how we're going to have authentic brand marketing. And I think we're doing a great job here.
For our brand, I think in marketing, you can do that. You can do a lot of data and look at data and research. And I had a guy that I worked with once that he tortured data to say anything he wanted to say. And so I think for us, it was crucial that for us to arrive at brand authenticity, we talked to the people who were telling those stories. So when you look at the market research that we did, we interviewed, surveyed nearly 100 people. Only 2 were internal. The rest were store owners. So it was important to us. And it was a 2-step process. It was going and collecting that information, talking to them, and then we represented it back to them and said, did we hear you correctly? Is this your story? Is this who you are? Because if this is off, then authenticity doesn't land because we're trying to represent them. So for us, it was saying, well, let's kind of take what marketing is good at, which is collecting data, potentially synthesizing it, then gut check it against the group we're working with and we're trying to represent from a brand standpoint, which are these community-driven store owners out in America, 1,100 of them. So for us, that's how we landed that authenticity, was really identifying who could give us the insight, the intelligence on what that really is. And for us, the risk was just holding up in a silo somewhere in a corporate office and determining that ourselves. For us, it was no, go out and talk to those stores and kind of connect and synthesize what they told us.
So when I first joined Molson Coors, I was in Chicago, and they just started a new innovation team. So Molson Coors, it's really Miller Lite and Coors Light. Those are our 2 brands. People get kind of confused with the name Molson, which is a very small percentage of our business. But Miller Lite and Coors Light dominated our business, and we really hadn't innovated in other categories. And they knew at the time, this is over 11 years ago now, they knew at the time that we had to innovate and that consumer preferences were changing. So being a part of the innovation team, one of the first people on the team, we did extensive research. And we were starting to create new brands from scratch. That's really the reason why I came over to Molson Coors, because this was extremely exciting. What opportunity do you have to create a new brand from scratch on a national level? And in building these new brands and the new brands that we created, and with all of this, qualitative, quantitative, tons of consumer research and focus groups, it all boiled down to honestly the authenticity of the brand that we wanted to create. So you start with those RTVs. What are those reasons to believe for that brand? You ladder up to that functional benefit. What's the ultimate consumer benefit? And then ultimately, what's that emotional payoff? Because at the end of the day, we're a beverage company, and if you're looking for an alcoholic drink, we have a non-alcs now too. We have energy as well, which is separate. But if you're looking for an alcoholic beverage, if you don't have your favorite brand, you're not going to just be like, oh, I'm opting out of the category. I decided not to drink something, right now. It is highly, highly interchangeable. So you have to be authentic. You have to own that brand purpose. you have to make sure those values and traits for the brand that you're creating are steadfast and true, because again, it's such a diverse category, especially at that time that was like the craft boom of like booms kind of like accelerated massively. So we also stepped into the craft department and those different areas. But you have to be authentic because consumers nowadays are so savvy, they can read through anything. I mean, it just is continuing to get even more and more pervasive about how savvy people are from a marketing perspective. So you just have to be true to your core and that overall brand positioning of what your brand is and what it can own and what it cannot own. And then hopefully you guys will have those great brand strategy decks that you've created and you really hold true to that, and the partnerships that you lend yourself to, and potentially influencers and other ways that you extend your brand, that it all kind of ladders up to that overall emotional well-being and that ultimate payoff from a brand standpoint.
So we all know that authenticity, as you all mentioned, is very important in how it differs. It differs per brand. Every brand has its own. With that being said, what strategies through brand authenticity have you been able to really create community through your multicultural cohorts? What has worked for you?
So one that I will mention for us, and I have a video as well, is a cause marketing program called Our Firm Salutes that we ran for 7 years. And this program benefited our military heroes. So underneath the Our Firm Salutes umbrella, we had a number of programs. When I joined in 2022, I was lucky enough to take over leading our Heroes to CEOs program, where we gave military veteran entrepreneurs grants to help their businesses. And we were able to help them not only further their business, but make connections with past winners, and they received coaching, we brought them together. When I started, we were still kind of in a COVID time period, so we had some virtual coaching sessions that I was able to be part of, and networking. And what was so beautiful about it is that it felt like we were making a true impact on a very specific community. And in the evaluation of these programs with our insights team, we did see that our consumers also connected with the program, and that it impacted future purchase impact, so that what we were doing resonated with them. And we actually brought Chef to a USO event where we had chefs from all across the different branches of the military showcase their favorite Bob Evans dish. So they took our mashed potatoes and created a whole new culinary expression, and we hosted a group of active duty military members and their guests for this event. And it was one of those moments in my career where you could see the difference that we were making and the gratitude that this group of people expressed, and that to me was just one of the most meaningful career moments.
You can actually go to the next slide.
All right.
I'm just going to go bing.
Yeah.
So to answer that question, I'll give you a quick history, because I know we've got time. I want to make sure you have time as well. Give you a quick history. Carquest was purchased by Advance Auto in 2014. Why does that matter? Because over the course of a few years, Carquest sort of got lost in that equation a little bit as a brand. And we won't go into that, but they sort of got lost. And so when you ask, what have we done to sort of to bring out authenticity, it really was this work. No one had really done any brand work for Carquest since 1984. This was done in 2022. So they went almost, that's horrible math, it's like 40 years? 40 years without any sort of brand work. So for us, we knew these things existed, but it was unearthing them, which is really the biggest thing we had in terms of how we began to drive authenticity to the marketplace. So you guys are very familiar with this sort of thing. Knowledge and service, everybody says that. We know that. Our guys have an edge, we believe, if you talk to them. But for us, the big thing was community. We thought that was a competitive edge for us. I think Jared earlier said distinction, a point of distinction. This is a point of distinction for us. These are 1,100 people who live in, play in, go to church with, people in their community. So to us, that was a huge edge. You can just click through these bad boys. So that was one of our little, that's our saying, that's our message when every mile counts. But if you kind of read the far right, the why, every customer matters. That was the thing we wanted to land on. And then you can go to the next slide. And this is sort of that manifesto for the community. You can see I love the second paragraph. We're not accountable to a corporate spreadsheet. This was our competitive edge in terms of the community. So this for us, to answer your question, Clara, was we had to unearth this notion, these things about our stores, really for us to drive forward in terms of communicating their authenticity. So this was a huge lift for us. And that's led to other things. Huge lift in content, because we can now tell these stories. Because of knowing their passion for the community, we brought on Hire Heroes USA, which is a veterans organization for the stores to support. So just doing this work was basically a platform for us to jump off and go, okay, here are all the ways we can tell the story, from supporting military organizations to huge content pushes, and the 1,100 channels that our stores have. So this work is crucial to pushing that authenticity. Sorry, I'm leaving you drive the car.
Oh, that's a good, and I think just building on authenticity and multicultural marketing, I'd say what we've learned at Molson Coors overall is leveraging different passion points from our consumers if you're not initially ingrained with that consumer at a really deep level. So like Hispanic, for instance, has always been an opportunity area for Molson Coors. So with Miller Lite specifically, they did a multi-year partnership with J Balvin, who is a very popular artist within the music industry, over 50 million Instagram followers, and we took it all the way through retail to the actual aluminum pint packaging. Separately, with Coors Light, we have a partnership with Tiny, again, in the music industry. On the flip side of that, not even just Hispanic women were well underserved within marketing, within beer. And I just love what Coors Light has done over the years. I don't know if you guys saw with our Made to Chill campaign a couple of years ago, like first ever commercial led with a female-led insight, where she sits down on the couch and she literally takes off her bra and she's just ready to chill with her Coors Light. And I'm like, finally, we're speaking to the women. This is fantastic, because this is exactly what we should be doing all along, and making sure that we're bringing in, again, more different groups of people, right? So it's not just based on your ethnicity, it's also gender. We do a lot of LGBTQ plus marketing as well. With specific brands that kind of lean in there again from the authenticity of what their brand stands for. Vizzy's one of our hard seltzers that does that in a really big way. It also gives back to that community. And then I'd say additionally, we've also extended ourselves and in partnership with Coca-Cola with our Topo Chico brand. We have a Topo Chico hard seltzer. Again, that's rooted in Mexican heritage, Mexican water. Has a really big following. If you haven't had the margarita variant, it's my favorite. It's fantastic. But these are all the ways that from a multicultural standpoint, we're really trying to make sure that we're extending to all these different groups, because I know you guys all know the data and the demos and how they're continuing to change and evolve, right? And I'd say lastly on Gen Z, we just launched a new product called Happy Thursday. It's a spiked refresher. It's literally taking the trend from Starbucks, which is like exploded with these crazy refreshers, and these Gen Zers that hate bubbles. So it's bubble free, again, an alcoholic beverage, targeting another cohort, if you will, a community, if you will, that we're looking for ways that we can continue to expand our overall business.
So those are all amazing examples of how to reach multicultural audiences in very different ways. With that being said, I'm just curious to know, overall, how do you, and I'm going to throw this to Marissa and Deanna, how do you make sure that your messaging, not only is there authenticity, right, we already talked about it ad nauseam, but at the same time, how do you know and make sure that you don't fall into stereotypes? Because it is many different multiculturals, backgrounds and nuances that you have to know about before moving forward with a campaign. So what are you doing to ensure not to fall into those stereotypes? And I believe, and even internally, if possible.
Okay. Well, I have to credit our marketing leadership team for bringing in a new tool. It's AI-driven called Xstereotype, and I actually have a little bit on it if I go back without messing this up too much. So we are partnering with Xstereotype. It's a data-driven DE&I tool led by AI, where we've done a look back, and then we're also putting in our new animatics for review. So one thing that we had done as a team is had stereotype review our previous campaigns. And one piece that I was really proud of in that review is that our firm Salutes came through is ranking very, very strong. It had the best performance of all the campaigns that we reviewed from our previous campaigns, finishing #1 in sentiment, inclusion, IQ, authenticity, identification, image, conversion score, positive emotion, and negative emotion. But what's really fantastic about this is not only were we looking back to get a baseline, we're using it as we go forward. So our team is working with Stereotype to submit new ad animatics. So before we ever go into full development execution of creative, we're partnering to review and ensure, are there any areas of watchouts or concerns with the creative that we're potentially going forward with? And again, I credit our team because when we have submitted ad animatics that have had some questions or some, can you improve this? We have taken a step back and improved it before it ever went out. And I think this is a really powerful tool. And we've been very early in using it. So we've been one of the, I would say, foundational brands that Stereotype has been
So working in local marketing now, covering Ohio and Kentucky, we have quite a few alliances, and I wanted to bring to life the fact that I started this campaign when I first came into this role about Miller Lite's actually brewed in Ohio, and a lot of people don't know that it's brewed in Ohio. So I found that to be very important, right? Because we were definitely always compete against craft, but to a lesser extent now. But again, it's brewed in Ohio, and it's really relevant to our local communities. And so we started this campaign, over 8 years ago, and it's kind of evolved. We've done lots of different content over the years with content creators and people from Ohio. And then a couple of years back, we just started elevating it larger with our alliances. So this video I'm going to show you is a partnership that we have with Tristan McKenzie. He's a Cleveland Guardian. And this video, we actually had a partnership with the Columbus Crew and Cincinnati Bengals.
Atlanta plugged in?
No, you're good for this as well. But this is, again, an insight-led, but you can see the reason we picked Tristan was, again, more of that multicultural lens. But he's also was a star pitcher on the team, had a fantastic season that year as well. But here's an example of what we leaned in on in a really authentic way.
This is where we represent. Where our fans come together to show their pride. Cleveland pride. The place where Guardians history is made. And to honor the Guardians, we're taking the earth from here and bringing it here. So our barley fields are not only fed by the sun and rain, but by the pride of Cleveland, brewing the passion, hopes, and dreams of the Guardians into Miller Lite.
So that was in 2022. We did again with the Crew and Cincinnati Bengals that year. The following year, we wanted to kind of build on this awesome campaign and these three alliances that we have specifically with Miller Lite, that are Miller Lite led. And this is actually building off of a local Ohio trend. There's a hashtag, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, called Only in Ohio. It's kind of a big deal. I've kind of had some head nods, but it's really funny because people make fun of Ohio. And they're like, no, but Ohio's awesome. So obviously I think most of the people in the room are from Ohio and we love Ohio, and that's kind of why we choose to live here. But we wanted to build on that trend that we were seeing in TikTok. And so here's a video that I, from the Columbus Crew specifically last year.
Nah, next. Now that's more like it. Who's that guy? Now this is my crew.
Hyper-local marketing, we've seen tremendous success. We actually won the Management Unit of the Year award last year. We had the best numbers on Miller Lite as well as Coors Light, but continue to kind of elevate local marketing, which I think is somewhat different for a lot of people, because I've done national, but now doing local as well. It's you can actually do really cool things on a local level that actually won't break your budget. And you can be really innovative from that perspective too.
So locality and also AI is very important to be utilizing to make sure not to fall into stereotypes and to understand the consumer. Jason, to you, I'm going to throw it to you in aspect of locality. Because I think that sometimes as brand marketers, especially national brand marketers, we tend to have that focus, right? We tend to sometimes forget about the local communities that we do create within our brands and that we service within our brands. So with that, what do you think actually resonated with Carquest when you went into your local communities and talked to the multicultural teams and the communities as well? And what do you do with storytelling that was very effective for you guys?
First, let me say, if you're not, so I know marketers like to work from a centralized standpoint. If you're a brand person, they just love centralized. The local marketing is great if you can figure it out. That's where we spend all of our time. So I don't have a big budget for corporate marketing. We do lean way into local marketing. And that addresses a couple issues for us on the community front. So to answer your question, what has worked is going into those communities and telling the stories of those store owners and making sure we reflect who they are to that community. So if you want to get to, for us, if you want to get to multicultural, if you want to get to those sorts of things, representation, we do it by mirroring our stores. If that's the community they serve, that's the story we tell. If they serve a farm community, that's the story we tell. If they serve a Hispanic community, that's the story we tell. So just by virtue of going into the local markets and saying, here's the uniqueness. This store that's here and the store that's 50 miles away are completely different, just by who owns it and who runs it and what they choose to focus on. And so that's what we've done. We've really leaned into local marketing because that gives us these platforms to really tell these different stories. So we don't have to sit around a whole lot and go, what's a new way? Just go to a store and start talking to them and their stories start coming out. So my encouragement to those of you to run marketing or run a brand, don't be scared of local marketing. Try to figure that out. Try to figure out those markets. I know obviously you guys have as well, and you're winning awards. Congratulations on that. And it really is. It's scary because it's like, do I want to hand the brand to 1,100 wet cats, right? In our world, and you go, yeah, we're going to help you do that. And so we brought on tools, platforms that help the stores do that. But why? Because they represent their community. They represent all the cultures that are in their community. So there's no way I can cover that in 1,100 communities. It's better just to equip them and have them tell that story, work with us to tell those stories, whether that's through content, whether that's through events that they have at their store. And that's really the formula we have landed on, is just to help them mirror their community. And we kind of just put our name to it. So that's what we've done. So we lean heavy into the local markets. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And it definitely provides a lot of details as to how to listen into the multicultural communities even deeper than just the data and the overall information out there. So for Marissa, to build community and to build it not only externally, we also have to, like I mentioned, build it internally. You kind of mentioned this previously, we were talking originally in the beginning, where internally is extremely important to showcase multicultural as well. Like really breathe it. Diversity and inclusion is very important to Bob Evans. I would love to get to know a little bit more about that and what the philosophy of Bob Evans is with diversity, inclusion, and their multicultural strategies overall.
So as I mentioned before, we have a dedicated commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and launched our first DE&I council last year. And I will flip back up the slide here. There we go. I'm not going to read all of this, but we do have a very strong dedicated mission to DE&I with a number of pillars underneath, and that's foundationally where our council is focused on. So I've been serving on the Brand Impact Committee. And again, I think this is where it all starts. It starts internally. If you want to have a commitment to reaching multicultural communities, how are we doing that in our own community here first? And then how are we also doing that? Reaching out and supporting our local communities that we do business in. And we have a philanthropic mission that also includes making sure that we are supporting inclusive environments and programs that provide a positive impact on our employees and our surrounding communities. So we've been very active in our communities and serving underneath these pillars here. And as a tie back, you can see the military as one of our pillars, which directly tied to our cause marketing program. It is who we are. Our commitment to supporting the military goes back to our founder, Bob Evans. Our president and CEO is is a former military member, and we have started in the past year, coming down from our DE&I council, we have started developing business resource groups. So the first business resource group that we introduced last year was a military and veterans business resource group, and then a women's business resource group, and we have new groups that are going to be launching, and we are very open to, if there is amongst our team members a topic or a specific culture that people are passion around, we want them to start those groups, and they will receive support from our DE&I council. And again, I think that's where it starts. And as we look to deepen, we talk about external marketing, as we deepen or bring out the bob around comfort, that plays so well into then connecting specifically with communities. So while we might be starting here with our comfort territory, I can see us in the future really getting into specific cultural marketing.
Marissa, do you want to also answer the question really quickly to showcase your videos? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, really quick, last thing, I know we're wrapping up right now. The last question was about breaking the norm. And essentially,
This is
within Ohio specifically, we'll just play this one. Okay, just what, so I'll just tee this up really quick. So these haven't launched. This hasn't launched yet. We have one for the Guardians, one for the Crew. I'll just play you guys the Bengals one. This will obviously launch during NFL football season. These are not color corrected sound effects. They're not final, but I just thought this was a great way to showcase what we're doing. But essentially, we did a phase one. We had a crazy, wacky idea against the norm about how can we actually get consumers involved in our commercials or with our alliances in a way that they could be like a professional player for a day. And that was kind of the overall idea. We wanted to do tryout videos. There's a lot of stuff that we wanted to have consumers engage with our brand. Again, having Miller Lite forefront about being proudly brewed in Ohio. Well, with talking with legal, as you guys all know, legal is our best friend, right? So there's a lot of issues about, well, diversity and how do you have a female versus a male hitting a baseball and who hits it the farthest and what if someone has a disability? And I'm like, holy crap, this is like way too complicated. There's no way we can like have real tryouts and like even the playing field for everybody. So we did our first phase. It was a sweepstakes where we did social media content videos. We launched it. Did really well. We got over 110 million impressions just in Ohio. It was fantastic. We leveraged 3 athletes again across our 3 alliances to help us promote these videos. They created their own content videos. The teams supported us, the alliances, and then people actually entered into with their own, they had to post their own content to then be into the next sweepstakes to then potentially be at the tryouts. So we had actual live tryouts, again, against the norm. I was like, holy crap, I don't know who's gonna show up today, how this is gonna look, is this the right audience that we're gonna have in our consumer, because we're always trying to target, especially in beer, 21 to 34-year-olds. So I wanted to make sure I also had a diverse audience. How do I do that? This is completely randomized, so 10 people were the finalists that came. They were awarded some prizes and whatnot. And then the actual ultimate final winner in this video was also a sweepstakes winner that was selected, who happens to be very multicultural once you'll see the final video. So again, these are launching. It was super fun. I lost a lot of sleep over this one. I'm not sure I would do this one again with having randomized consumers in your commercial content, but hopefully you guys like what you see.
So as you can see, Multicultural does work. It does move your business forward. I think that we're out of time for questions, but definitely the panelists will be here and answering any questions that you may have, that you may, I understand that Multicultural targeting them is nuanced. That's why we're here, as we don't have to say it, but also they are here and they're experts as well, and they've done it and it has proven for them. So I hope that you would consider it moving forward if you haven't, because it will definitely drive your business. And thank you so much, all of you, for being part of this panel.